Hey guys, we are Sean and Christy Michael of Long Honeymoon coming at you today with another highly requested discussion topic. Today we're talking about how to break down an RV campsite, how to pack it up and get ready to hit the road. 11 steps that we take whenever we're leaving an RV campsite. Many of you have said that you create laminated checklists of all these different steps with regard to setting up and breaking down an RV campsite. And I certainly think that is a very good idea. Secondly, if you are traveling with a partner, it's a good idea to have a division of labor. Rather than have two people doing all of the same tasks at the same time, things will go much more quickly if you kind of divvy up the tasks. And the way this works when we travel, typically I'm outside working on the outside stuff, and Christy is taking care of the interior of our Airstream. All right, without further ado, let's get started. Step number one is to put away all exterior clutter. And I'm talking about your grill, your chairs, your table, maybe any loose firewood, all that sort of stuff. And typically, we start this process the day before we're going to depart. So we're not overburdened in the morning trying to collect all of this gear. The problem with waiting to the last minute to do all this stuff is it's stressful, you get into a hurry, and you could potentially make mistakes.
So our second step is to stow and secure all of your goodies inside your camper. So this is usually what I'm working on while Sean is doing some of these other steps. And it basically includes, making sure all the dishes are washed and dried, put away safely, latching all the doors like the bathroom door, the accordion door between our living space and bedroom space, making sure all the fantastic fan vents are closed and latched properly, making sure the vent in the bathroom is closed and latched properly, making sure everything in the bathroom is stowed away safely, latching our pantry so that it doesn't roll out while we're on the road, and then making sure everything that will just be riding in our camper is in a secure spot. Taking anything off our nightstand or Sean's desk that needs to be placed in a safe spot for travel down the road.
Closing windows, lowering your TV antenna.
Yeah.
It's easy to overlook some of these things.
Yeah.
So
the one step that we don't have to do because we don't have slide outs is pulling in our slide outs. So that's something we don't have to worry about. That is something anybody with a slide out has to worry about. And that would be done with the interior cleanup and stowaway.
Next step, raise your scissor jacks. Sometimes I will raise the scissor jacks the night before. If you're a newcomer to RV camping, you need to know scissor jacks are nice to have. They are not necessary. They do not level your rig. They simply act as a dampening force, reducing vibration when you walk around inside your trailer. So it's very nice to have your scissor jacks down, but sometimes I will raise them up the night before we leave. Why? Because whatever you do, you don't want to operate your trailer jack, your power trailer jack, while you have the scissor jacks down on the ground. And it's very easy to slip up and make this mistake because you wake up, you're ready to leave your campsite, there's a checkout time, and you get in a hurry. And so you go to your power jack and you start jacking up the tongue of your trailer, and your scissor jacks are still down. Well, you've just bent your scissor jacks possibly and done some damage there, and or you have fried some gears in your power jack. And ask me how I know this. Quick story, when we first started traveling with our Airstream, within about 3 months, we had managed to make this mistake. I jacked up the tongue of the trailer with the scissor jacks down. Easy to do, you get in a hurry, you forget that they're down. And in our original trailer jack, there were these nylon gears inside that were designed to shear off when they were overstressed. They were expensive. They were a pain in the butt to replace.
And they were hard to find.
And so we ended up jacking up our trailer by hand, which was a laborious process. You had to take the top off the jack and just like do a hand crank. So that's why I really stress this point about the scissor jacks.
And it's also why we don't have that jack anymore.
Yeah, the jack was terrible. I was really glad to get rid of it. You know, the point is, your scissor jacks, you can very easily damage your power jack and or your scissor jacks if you're not careful. So you can go ahead and lift those the day before, the night before you leave, and it just won't be a problem. You'll notice a little bit more rocking and rolling when you move around inside your trailer.
But it's really not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal. All right, next step.
Unhook from the city water. So this is the next step for us if we have connected the city water to our rig. A lot of times we'll go ahead and unhook from the city water and go ahead and pull that hose around to our freshwater tank, and we will fill our freshwater tank before we hit the road. Now, there's some discussion about this, whether you should travel with a full freshwater tank or whether you should empty it completely. We usually travel with a full freshwater tank because we never know when we're going to boondock for the night and need water. And usually we stop at some point during our day of travels, use the restroom, pour some water to drink, that sort of thing. So we like to have a full tank. The one thing we don't recommend doing is towing with a half empty tank, especially if you're going to be somewhere where you're going up and down a lot of hills, around curves, because once that water gets sloshing, it can really affect the handling and maneuvering of your trailer.
In fact, Professor Sean has brought a little demonstration for you today.
Oh, wow. Is that on there securely? Make sure.
Here, well, we'll find out. Oh, I forgot to put the sewer cap on. No. Here's your freshwater tank. Consider what happens to a freshwater tank when it's half full and you start going around some turns. That water gets sloshing around inside your tank. Our freshwater tank holds 54 gallons of water. So, water is very heavy. Mm-hmm. So if you feel that your tow vehicle is taxed to its limit pulling your rig, I'm going to wag my finger at you, but it's probably best for you to have an empty freshwater tank because, 54 gallons of water, for example, in our tank equates to around at least 500 pounds of weight. So if you want to really reduce the weight of your trailer, you want to empty all your tanks. In our case, we have a big beast of a diesel truck towing our rig. I'm not really concerned so much about weight. And there are some Airstreamers who will say a full freshwater tank plants your axles better on the road. Like there are some people who will say your trailer will actually tow better if you have a full freshwater tank pushing down on those axles because our freshwater tank is centrally located. Mm-hmm. But if you have a half full freshwater tank, you're going to get this, and that's going to contribute to trailer sway. We've talked enough about trailer sway. You don't want it. It's very dangerous. It's the number one cause of trailer accidents. Mm-hmm. So I think the consensus is you either want a full freshwater tank or an empty freshwater tank. We choose full, but
the choice is up to you. Make your own call. Do your own research on that one.
Number 5, time to empty those water tanks, and I'm talking about the black and the gray. We've got an entire video here on YouTube about emptying your tanks, so we won't go into too much detail here. General consensus is empty the black first, then you empty your gray, and that kind of flushes out the hose. Then you need to obviously store your sewer hose and store your sewer hose support in the seal and all that good stuff. And by the way, this might be a good time for you to add a fresh tank treatment inside. We try to use tank treatments pretty much with every flush of our black tank.
So number 6, you're going to unplug from your power connection. Unplug it, stow away that cord safely, and make sure you will have a working, functioning cord at your next stop.
One point to make here is that cord has a memory, and if you kind of furl your cord properly in a loop, it will remember the way that it was furled previously. And it's just healthy for the cord and cable.
All right, so step number 7 is to hitch up your rig. So we did a whole video on hitching recently. This is your chance to get everything connected properly, take all the necessary steps to make sure you are securely hitched. This will take a few minutes. It's going to be a 2-person job. If you have 2 people, of course, you can do it solo. but it'll take a little longer.
Yeah, some people obviously use hitching cameras and so forth. We typically do it the old-fashioned way. And again, we have an entire video on YouTube about hitching. This is probably the one step that I guess will take you the most amount of time really on departure day, because you need to make sure you've got everything right with that hitch. Very important. You don't want to be in a hurry when you're hitching up your rig. Next step, now that your rig is all properly hitched, you can remove those wheel chocks if possible. Sometimes there's some settling of the trailer and the trailer will be very snug up against your wheel chocks. And in that case, you may have to move your trailer a little bit to get the chocks out from under the tires. You guys have really taught us a lot about the importance of wheel chocks, because we have never personally witnessed a trailer rolling. We've never had our trailer roll. However, many of you have experienced this. You've either seen it or you've had it happen yourself with your own trailers. So I really appreciate all the comments that several of you guys have made on our videos, because they've really impressed upon us the importance of wheel chocks. The prospect of a trailer rolling can be absolutely terrifying and incredibly dangerous. You know, there have been situations in which people have, for example, remove the wheel chocks when they're hitching their trailer, and suddenly their trailer rolls forward into their tow vehicle. And that could potentially trap or crush someone between the trailer and the tow vehicle.
That's scary.
So I only mention that to emphasize the importance of wheel chocks, because you have taught us a lot about wheel chocks.
All right, so step number 9, you want to fold up your step and lock your door. So this is your time to fold up that step, put that doormat inside if you haven't already, and fold up your steps securely, lock the door.
So I have to tell you a funny story. We had stopped one time on the side of the road in Alaska, and I think I ran back to our Airstream to grab a cold drink or something like that. Ran back into the truck, and we took off and we're going down the highway. And so we're hauling down the highway doing, I don't know, 55 or 60 miles an hour. We go around a bend, and Christy looks back in her rearview mirror, and she's like, "Is the trailer door open?" I'm like, yeah, maybe it is. I'd forgotten to close the door. So we were basically just driving down the highway 60 miles an hour with our door wide open. It really illustrates what can happen if you're in a hurry and you don't stop and pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't get into a rush. I don't care what the golf cart guy is screaming at you.
Right.
Don't rush through some of these important steps.
Exactly. So number 10 is it's time to perform a walk-around inspection. And I usually am the one that does this because Sean is in the truck at this point, ready to pull out. So I usually walk around the trailer. I'll look at the tail lights, the turn signals, and have him apply the brakes and, check both turn signals to make sure that our lights are functioning properly. And then, make sure the chocks are definitely gone. Double check the hitch area and make sure everything looks like it's, correct as far as how it's been attached there. And then
last step, don't forget your levelers. I mean, in our case, we've been using the Lynx levelers. What you might be using blocks of wood, or you might be using the Anderson leveling system, which is very popular apparently. But just don't forget to get your levelers. So you're going to have to pull forward or back off those levelers.
Yeah, we usually try to pull forward off of them just because that's usually easier. And then I gather those up on each side, put them back in their bag, and toss them in the bed of our pickup truck. And that is usually our last step. And we also extend our tow mirrors on our rig. So we always try to make sure we have done that before we actually pull out of the campground, because sometimes that's very easy to forget to do in the midst of doing all the other stuff related to hitching and the trailer, etc.
You see, we're old school on our truck. Good old Seymour has manual tow mirrors that you have to manually extend.
Muscle into it.
Yeah. All you newfangled guys with your gadgets, you get those power tow mirrors. But ours are cheaper to replace, I can tell you that.
There are a lot of campgrounds that we've been to that will have funny signs as you're leaving, like, step up antenna down, wife on board. You know, we've seen that sign a lot of places. And so that tells me that a lot of people forget those things when they are pulling out of a campground. And
I would never forget you, honey.
well, I hope not. But, you know, if you're in a big RV, you know, big motorhome, you might think your wife is in the back somewhere and she's not, you know. Whereas if you're towing with a tow vehicle, you know, you can look over and see the passenger seat is empty. But, you know, if you're in a big motorhome, I could see where you might accidentally leave somebody behind.
You know, when you do your final walk-around inspection, pay special attention to that area around the hitch and also the rear tailgate of your truck if you tow with a pickup truck, because that tailgate is such a wonderful place to stash your tools
While you're hitching.
So I know I've been guilty of putting rubber mallets on it. In fact, my favorite metal crowbar, I'm afraid, was left somewhere in Moab, Utah.
Yeah.
Which I was really sad to lose it. I had this old metal crowbar thing that Christy's father gave me that I used with our hitch. Carried around with our Airstream for 10 years. And one day in Moab, I'm afraid, I forgot it because we were in a hurry trying to leave before the 11 a.m. checkout time or whatever. And I think I left it sitting on the ground next to the hitch. But I know that I had previously placed it on the rear tailgate too.
Or, you know, on the propane cover of your, you know, the front of your rig. That's another easy spot to leave something. So just be on the lookout for things like that. And don't forget your pets and children, of course. And you've all seen somebody drive away with their antenna up and you flag them down or their step's still out. It happens. You know, you're only human. So don't beat yourself up about it too much. But yeah, having a list or just having a certain order that you do things, I think helps get you in a routine.
For you newcomers, maybe this has given you some ideas about how to speed up the process and do it more safely. For you old RV veterans, what did we miss? If we missed any steps, be sure to chime in the comments and let us know what you do when you're packing up an RV campsite that makes the process go better for you. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel because we're cranking out videos like this every week.
If you want to make sure you see every single video, be sure to click the little bell next to the subscribe button because that will give you a notification every time we upload a new video. So you will be sure to see every new episode as soon as it goes live. Also, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, let us know where you're from, give us a shout out, tell us what you want to see in another video. And we hope that you guys have a great week. Happy camping and lo-lo-ho.
Lo-lo-ho.
If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, give it a thumbs down. Feel free to leave a comment. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.